The skull in Attenborough's garden, the secret that refused to stay buried. This is the Richmond head. For 131 years, it sat in the dark, buried beneath a garden, holding the secret of a crime so brutal it shocked Victorian London. In 1879, a woman disappeared from her Richmond home. No body, no trace, just gone. But then her servant was seen wearing her silk dresses, selling her furniture, and walking through London like she owned the place. When police finally caught up with her, they found a horrifying wooden box floating in the Thames. Inside were human remains that had been boiled down to nothing, but one piece was missing: the head. Investigators searched the river, the gardens, and the streets. Nothing. The killer, Kate Webster, was eventually hanged and the case was closed, but that final piece of the victim stayed hidden, waiting. Then, in 2010, workers began digging in a garden in Richmond, the estate of Sir David Attenborough. Their shovels hit something hard, something round. A skull had finally surfaced, exactly where the killer once worked as a barmaid over a century ago. This was not just murder. This was a servant who boiled her employer's body, reportedly gave the rendered fat to neighbors as cooking lard, and nearly erased a human being from history. What really happened that night in March 1879? How did a domestic servant think she could make her employer vanish completely? And why did it take 131 years for the final witness to tell its story? Stay with me to step behind the forbidden doors of the Black Museum and find out. Richmond, 1879. Gas lamps lit up the cobblestone streets. Behind high walls, secrets hid in nice homes. At number 2, Mayfield Cottages, lived Julia Martha Thomas. She was 55, twice widowed, and rich enough to live well without working. But Julia had a bad reputation in the neighborhood. She went through servants like crazy. They never lasted more than a few weeks. Some quit after just days. Others got fired for the smallest mistakes. A spot on a teacup, dust on the shelf, being 5 minutes late. The woman was impossible to please, and everyone in Richmond knew it. Then came Kate Webster, Irish, 30 years old. She had a criminal past with theft, fraud, and prison time. She had a thick accent and a bad temper, especially when she drank, which was often. But she needed work badly, and Julia was running out of options. So in January 1879, Kate moved into the cottage as a live-in maid. From day one, it was a disaster waiting to happen. Julia complained about everything Kate did. The floors were not clean enough. The laundry was not done right. The meals were terrible. Kate, on the other hand, spent more time at the local pub than actually working. She came home drunk, stumbling through the door late at night while Julia waited up, angry. By early March 1879, things had gotten really bad. Julia told her friends that Kate was the worst servant she ever had. Lazy, dishonest, could not be trusted. She gave Kate notice. "Pack your things. You are done here. You leave in the morning." Kate did not take it well. Not at all. March 2nd, 1879. It was a Sunday evening. Julia had been at church and came home around 8 p.m. She was already angry because Kate made her late for the service, which embarrassed her in front of everyone. They started fighting the moment Julia walked through the door. The fight got worse fast. Voices got louder. Julia told Kate she was worthless, that no one would ever hire her again. Kate, who had been drinking at the pub earlier, lost control. They were at the top of the stairs now, and Kate made a quick decision. She pushed Julia hard. Julia fell down the wooden stairs, her body hitting each step with a loud thud. She landed at the bottom, hurt but alive. Blood dripped from her head. She tried to scream for help. Kate could not let her scream. The neighbors would hear. The police would come. Everything would be over. Kate ran down the stairs and wrapped both hands around Julia's throat, squeezed as hard as she could. Julia fought back, scratching at Kate's arms, trying to breathe, her eyes wide with fear. But Kate was younger, stronger. She held on until the fighting stopped, until the body went completely still. Julia Martha Thomas was dead. Most people, if they killed someone in anger like this, would have panicked. They would have run. They would have called for help. They would have turned themselves in. But Kate Webster did not panic. She stood there in the quiet cottage, looking down at the body, and made a cold decision. She was not going to hang for this. She was going to make Julia disappear completely, every single trace of her. What Kate did next was one of the most brutal acts in Victorian crime history. She dragged Julia's body into the kitchen and started working. Over the next several hours, she used a meat saw, a a razor, and a kitchen knife to cut up Julia's body piece by piece. Arms, legs, body. She worked all through the night, cutting through bone and flesh, breaking the body into smaller parts. But getting rid of body parts was not easy, especially in 1879. You could not just throw them in the trash and hope no one noticed. Someone would find them, someone would ask questions. So Kate came up with a plan that was as horrifying as it was smart. She filled the large copper laundry pot with water, put it on the stove, and lit a fire under it. Then she started boiling the body parts one by one. For hours and hours, the cottage filled with the awful smell of burning flesh and boiling fat. Neighbors later said they smelled something really bad coming from number 2 Mayfield Cottages that night, but no one thought to check. This was Victorian England after all. People minded their own business. High walls existed for a reason. As the flesh slowly boiled away from the bones, Kate scooped the fat off the top with a spoon. She collected it carefully in glass jars, and then she did something truly sick, something that really showed how bold and cold she was. She gave this human fat to her neighbors, telling them it was top-quality lard, perfect for cooking and frying. One neighbor, Mrs. Porter, later told police that Kate gave her a jar of what she called the best lard she would ever taste. Mrs. Porter actually used it to fry food for her family. When she found out the truth later, the horror of that realization haunted her for the rest of her life. But Kate still had a problem: the head. Boiling a skull took too long and was too risky, so she wrapped it in cloth, took it to the hole-in-the-wall pub where she used to work as a barmaid, and buried it deep in the garden behind the building, deep enough that no one would find it. Not for 131 years, anyway. The rest of the remains she packed into a wooden box and a black bag. For the next 2 weeks, Kate Webster became Julia Martha Thomas. She put on Julia's finest silk dresses, her jewelry, her gold watch. She walked through Richmond as if she owned the place, and no one questioned it. Why would they? Servants did not wear their boss's clothes. So if someone was wearing Julia's dresses, they must have been Julia, or at least someone with permission to wear them. Kate went even further. She invited a man named John Church to help her sell Julia's furniture. She told him Julia had gone away on business and left her in charge. John did not suspect anything. He helped Kate pack up everything: furniture, paintings, valuables. They loaded it all into a cart and sold it piece by piece. Kate made a small fortune, enough to start a new life, enough to disappear. But first, she had to get rid of the box. On March 4th, 2 days after the murder, Kate convinced John Church to help her carry a heavy wooden box to Barnes Bridge. She told him it had valuables she was moving to a new home. John, being a gentleman, agreed to help. They walked to the bridge at night. Kate waited until no one was looking, and then she pushed the box over the railing. It splashed into the Thames and sank beneath the dark water. Kate thought it was over. She thought she was free, but the Thames had other plans. 2 days later, a bargeman named Henry Winslow spotted something floating in the water: a wooden box. He pulled it ashore and opened it. Inside were human remains: legs, arms, and a torso, all partially boiled. The smell was overwhelming. The case exploded across London. Police launched a massive investigation, but there was a problem. Without a head, they could not identify the victim. For days, the case went nowhere. Then someone noticed that Julia had not been seen in over a week. Her friends began asking questions. Why had her servant been selling her furniture? Why was Kate wearing Julia's clothes? Police went to the cottage. Kate was gone. She had fled to Ireland, but she made a mistake. She tried to sell Julia's jewelry to a pawnbroker in Dublin. The pawnbroker contacted authorities. Kate was arrested on March 28, 1879. At first, Kate denied everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Neighbors testified about the smell. John Church testified about the box. Mrs. Porter testified about the lard. Finally, Kate confessed. She admitted to killing Julia. She admitted to boiling the body. She admitted to everything except where the head was buried. Her trial at the Old Bailey was sensational. The courtroom was packed every day. The jury found her guilty. On July 29, 1879, Kate Webster was hanged at Wandsworth Prison. She was 30 years old. Right before the trapdoor opened, she was asked one last time where the head was buried. She stayed silent. In October 2010, Sir David Attenborough decided to build an extension on his Richmond property. Construction workers began digging. The property sat on the exact spot where the Rising Sun pub once stood, the same pub where Kate had worked. On October 28th, a worker's shovel hit something hard. A skull, human, old, buried deep. Police were called. Forensic teams arrived. Carbon dating placed it in the late 19th century. The location matched historical records of the pub's garden. The skull was compared to historical descriptions of Julia Martha Thomas. It was a match. After 131 years, Julia's head had finally been found, right where Kate had buried it. In 2011, a formal coroner's inquest was held. For the first time in over a century, a verdict of unlawful killing was officially recorded for Julia Martha Thomas. Acting Detective Inspector David Bolton told the coroner that the skull had fracture marks consistent with a fall down the stairs and low collagen levels consistent with being boiled. Kate Webster believed she could erase Julia Martha Thomas from existence. She thought that by boiling the body, she could destroy the evidence of her brutality. She thought that by burying the head where no one would ever look, she would keep her secret until the end of time. And for 131 years, she was almost right. But the truth has a way of coming up. Kate Webster nearly committed the perfect crime because she understood the limits of 1879 forensics. She knew the police of her time relied on intuition over science, but could she do it today? In an era of DNA, carbon dating, and digital footprints, is it still possible for a human being to truly disappear? Tell us your theory in the comments. And stay curious, because the truth isn't always found in what they say, but in what they left behind.